The second book that I really like is written by this man called Ken Blanchard. Ken wrote a book, 1 Minute Manager, and many leaders would have read this book, 1 Minute Manager. I mean, it's a book that is on the market for a long time. But his books are written with stories that is easy reading, but there is a particular book that I like. I mean, I read a lot of his books, but a book that is outstanding for me is the book entitled Gung Ho. And Gung Ho talks about 3 different animals, and he picks up the 3 animals, and through the animals tells us a story. Yeah, it talks about two persons belonging to the same organization and how one has a different attitude, a different perspective to the organization, and the other having a healthy perspective, and that led them to success. Mm-hmm. And so that is a pretty good book, Gung Ho. And Gung Ho talks about, firstly, about ensure that your work is worthwhile. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we come to the ministry, we approach what we're doing, and we're wondering, does it make a difference? Yeah. And so Gung Ho in that book teaches you to reorientate yourself to see that, what you are doing, even though you may be pushing your pen, putting ink on a pen rather than out there preaching, winning the world for Jesus, it's still worthwhile work.
Yeah.
So it's how you orientate it. It talks about how teamwork is important. Yeah. So there are 3 different dimensions of this book that I feel like every great leader ought to read this book, understand the good concepts that is found from this book, so that we can make an impact wherever we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the first point here is about work that is worthwhile, giving what we do the sense of high value. And then secondly, the second concept of Gung Ho deals with ownership. Letting people have ownership in the production of what they're doing, which is very important, because sometimes in organization we can be so controlling that there is no sense of ownership. Yeah. When work is worthwhile, people want to have an ownership. Yeah. If it's worthwhile yet there is no ownership, after a while people become errand boys. And when they're errand boys, they are relegated to a level of playing at a lower level that has been kept because we have not given empowerment into people's life. And so it teaches me in this book that as a leader, I need to help people understand work is worthwhile, a high value of work. Mm-hmm. Number 2, the high ownership in what they're doing so that they are in control. And then thirdly, he talks about how we can be cheerleaders for each other. Yeah, how we should be cheering one another on. And so he used the illustration of the beaver and the geese, the flying formation, and how the quacking, is actually cheering the person on, cheering the other on. And so I think it's a great book. It's a great book in leadership and management, particularly for those of us senior leaders that have people that are serving together with us. Yeah.
Talk to me about ownership. How do you foster that sense of ownership? Because I think maybe there'll be ministers that are listening to this that say, well, if I give someone ownership, they may not do it the way I want it to be done, or it may not come out with the result. How do you have ownership that's still that sensible? You're not. It's just a free for all, as it were.
That's an excellent question. I think here, if we are objective driven, not objective minded, but we're objective driven, then this is what we call management by objective. This is where we are heading. This is what we are achieving. Yeah. I mean, like in a football game, you can have your play by. I mean, you can have your playbook that describes the play by play. But you know, football is dynamic. Things happen in a game, and the players understand the objective. The objective is to defend well, and the objective is to score. And in between, every player has to take ownership for their position. They have to take ownership of helping their teammates. They have to take ownership of how they practice their footballing skill. Yeah. So I think here it's where it demands, and really your question here is the demands that is placed on us senior leaders, that when we empower others, we need to then let go and let God takes over. Yeah. But if we don't, then what we're having is robots. Yeah. And systems can be automated. Humankind cannot be automated, and humankinds are dynamics. And that's where a leader therefore have to exercise skills in man management. Yeah. So I think here if we exercise strong man management, helping the folks that we're serving with understand the objective, as long as we can arrive, and we want to arrive well. Yeah, I mean, like every football game, we want a clean sheet and we want to score as many goals. Yeah, so if that's the objective, then everybody has to play their part. Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone has their role, and
Yeah.
you know, like on a football pitch. But like you said, there's those dynamics where if the opposition are lined up in a different way, then you have to change on the pitch and on the fly, and you have. And if a person doesn't have ownership and they can only go in certain directions, then it's going to limit the effectiveness.
So could you imagine the wing back getting a ball and the whole entire flank is empty, and he runs all the way to the midline, and then he says, no, I'm not supposed to be there. And so he doesn't take the ball forward down the flank and crosses it. There's a missed opportunity, because they don't understand the objective. Yeah, but because they're too centered on my function.
Yeah.
So yes, your function is important, but how's your function related to the objective? Because sometimes your strikers may be tired. Sometimes your strikers may be marked. Sometimes the strikers may not be in the right place.
Yeah. What's one thing that you think that pastors and ministers could do to increase the ownership within their congregation, do you think?
Okay, before I get there, I think we talk about our immediate team first.
Yeah, sure.
I think if I'm going to increase ownership, I must first do it with my team. And I think if I can have strong communication and strong relationship with my team, and we have great opportunities of talking about together, playing together, dreaming together, that's a good starting point. Because then you can cascade it down to the congregation. But okay, for churches and for some of our churches, there isn't a strong, what we call, team. Then it's really between the pastor and the congregants. Then, therefore, what is important is that we need to build structures within the congregation for those that has a stronger sense of wanting to serve, filter forward, so that then they can become the team from the congregation that we can start working with. And yeah, the same principle apply. I want to build relationship with them. And then I want to share with them a compelling vision that would unite them to come together. I will spend time to ensure that we are speaking the same language, which is important because if we are all speaking the same language, then it tells us that we have the same objective in mind. And once we have the same objective in mind, then what is important is that I help. And of course, you need to train and then you need to release them. You need to train and release them to function in their best gift mix, to bring the congregation along with us towards the objective. Yeah. So I will begin with that. But yeah, for churches that have a team, to me, that's the middle management that we have to address. That's the group that we need to work with.